Today on Homeworthy, we're bringing you to Highland Park, Texas for a look inside Adam Saxton and Dan Murphy's beautifully transformed 100-year-old home. Fondly regarded as the Beverly Casa, Adam and Dan embarked on a design and build journey to fully renovate and expand the classic 1920s home just 2 years ago. Inside, you'll see that the couple preserved the original character and history of the home and chose to enhance its traditional features with refined yet playful decor. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. To shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy episodes, be sure to check out the product links below for amazing furniture, accessories, and more.
Hello, Homeworthy. Welcome to Highland Park, Texas, and our home. My name is Adam Saxton.
And I'm Dan Murphy. Welcome to the Beverly Casa. Why don't you come on in and take a look with us?
Welcome to our home. It was built in 1929, and we spent the past 2 years renovating it, expanding it, adding on to it, and we hope to make it work for our family for many years to come and for another 100 years here in Highland Park.
We bought the home just after Christmas in 2021 and moved in about 7 months ago, in December of 2023. So we're excited to have you all here and look forward to showing you around.
And we're starting here in our entryway. The first thing to notice here, a lot of people notice, are these marble black and white and gray floors. These are different stones that we designed in a custom pattern and then chose the individual stones for the pattern.
This room, the structure of it is really identical to what it was when we bought the house. We'll kind of point out some things as we go around in rooms that changed and such like that, but really the staircase, the room, the structure is identical to how it was 100 years ago.
The house is sort of a Spanish, Italian, European blend mixed with some Texas influences that was popular in this area. You'll see that on the outside with the tile roofs and the brick and the carved limestone work. The inside's a pretty traditional floor plan, where this original entry space was where everyone entered into the home. It's completely unchanged from when it was built. The original curved staircase, it was really one of our favorite things about the house. When we came in, we realized it could be kind of reimagined and brought up to date. And we found this 16-foot long custom chandelier from a company called Boyd Lighting to fill the whole entry space. And I think it really is a great way to blend the old and the new with this modern fixture in this space that is unchanged for, almost 100 years.
And the light fixture is kind of like probably about 100 things in the house that I could tell 10-minute stories on, but I'll bring up a few. It's a spot where we had a tall area there because it's 2 stories, but you have a pretty narrow space between the railings. So finding something that was long but was not wide and kind of sticking into the walkway was a challenge. So we had a lot of those kind of fun projects to find things that worked for the space and also accomplished what we were looking for. And I think most of them we ended up pretty happy with.
I wanted to talk a little bit about this carpeting. You'll see a lot of menswear influences throughout our house. Both of Dan and I are men's fashion fans, so you'll see that theme throughout. And it starts here in the entry with this houndstooth wool carpet. The rest of the color palette here is really creamy, neutral whites. I think it accents the woodwork nicely and creates a calm base for all of these interesting textures and metals and marbles and materials that we have going on in here. There's also little touches of black throughout our house. Our door frames, our doors and window frames are all black, and you'll kind of see little touches of black repeated throughout with a pretty neutral background.
The walls in here are Swiss coffee. You'll see that's our base color that you'll see throughout a number of rooms, and then we tried to spice it up with some additions in other spots.
Okay, we are standing in our lower gallery, which connects kind of the old front of the house to the back that we'll see later, which is where we added on in the rear. This continues all the creamy white paneling that we saw throughout the entryway, again painted Benjamin Moore Swiss coffee. The floors are 5-inch white oak floors, and they're laid here in a herringbone pattern. We wanted to keep the gallery really to feel a little bit like an art gallery. So while the walls and the ceiling have some detail and texture, otherwise it's pretty clean. And by having a herringbone pattern here, it creates some interest without us having to layer a rug or find a rug for this space. That's one of the things I really like about it.
In this space was really probably what I would say the most dramatic change to the architecture of the first floor and what was the old house. Because as I mentioned in the entry, you used to walk right into a living room, or a dining room, excuse me, that walked into a kitchen and a family room. And now we brought this kind of wide open space that you could see out to the front of the house and the streets and into the dining room and the kitchen. And it really kind of gave you that connectivity to walk around the house, kind of make it a little bit more fluid and appreciate both the old that was here and the new that we added on in the back of the house.
Let's talk about this table here in the front window. And we knew when we first were designing the house and saw the floor plan coming together that this would be a really big focal point here in the front window. We saw this table at a company in Los Angeles called Blackman Cruise, that is a design company and gallery, and really liked it, thought it was super cool, but then left and didn't think much about it. Later on Father's Day, Dan and our sons gave me a box that had like a dinosaur toy leg and a piece of wood glued on top of it, and it opened the box and I was so confused I had no idea what they were talking about. And actually Dan had bought the table because he knew I really liked it and it'd be perfect for this space. So I figured it out. They couldn't put the table in the box, and the table was a long lead time and had to be ordered, but they created a little sculpture for me anyway.
It looks a lot better than the prototype did, but we couldn't get it delivered on time.
And then the vase that we have sitting on it is from my mom, my parents. They have one in their house, and then she gave us the second one for our house. So this is a kind of a special focal point in our home. Yep. The ceiling in this room these are Venetian plaster, and it's been it's a glossier finish. It's more of a shinier finish than sometimes Venetian plaster is matte, and this one is a glossy Venetian plaster finish. Everything is the same color. All the paint is the same color. There's just slight textural differences between the sheens of the paint, depending on what surface it's on and how it's applied. But it's all the Benjamin Moore Swiss coffee again.
One of the things we did in this room is kind of in creativity. We used, there's a lot of space here, but we used every inch of it. And so you won't even see any closets other than in the bedrooms. And so there's 2 of these that the builder helped us figure out a way to do a basically panel door that you can open and get into a coat closet here. And so it's nice that we have the space as needed when we have coats. You don't need them that much in Dallas, so being hidden was okay. But it still keeps the look of the hallway. And we did the same thing in the entryway with our AV closet. So you could put the stuff that you needed in the house, but keep it out of the way and not make a storage room a focal point.
The photograph is a David Yarrow photograph that was photographed here in Dallas, downtown, a few miles from where we're standing. And we think that's really cool to have a photograph from one of our favorite artists that was shot in Dallas. And Dan is from Chicago, so we also have work by the same photographer in the dining room that is just opposite the wall. And it's really cool to see both of them in the same space.
We actually, our first date and where we got engaged was at the art gallery that sells David Yarrow's work, and unbeknownst to us, we didn't realize until we planned the event, we were both big fans of his before we met, so it was kind of a fateful moment when Adam asked if we wanted to stop in an art gallery on the way to dinner.
Yeah. Neither one of us are interior designers. We both have careers and day jobs, and this is not what we do, but we love our home. We love to have people in our home, and we really wanted to make it ours and make it unique to us. So that's what we did here. Both of us have really similar taste, and we gravitate towards the same type of thing. I probably choose more of the initial design kind of inspiration and look we're going for, but that would end up just being a big mess if you didn't have Dan to have some detail in order to the process to pull it together.
There's a little more practicality from me. So sometimes we had a really good idea from Adam, and I had to tell him that's a great idea, but remember, we have to live here, we have dogs, we have kids. How do we make that a home instead of a museum? And so I agree, like Adam said, we were aligned on, all the big stuff that, in the 2 years, we never had a big disagreement or argument over things. I tried to fabricate them a few times because it seemed like it'd be more fun, kind of like a reality TV series. But in the end, things came together and we agreed on, almost everything, and really were able to bring what both of us wanted into it. And I would agree with Adam. He had a little bit more of that design taste, but he's in the restaurant business, I'm a banker, so by no means is this our background and where we focus for our day jobs.
And so what we learned is that you can be resourceful and you can figure things out on your own. I knew that about us. I didn't know everything about how to design a home and how to choose everything and how to work with an architect. But I knew that we could figure out any questions we had. I knew that Dan and I would figure out the right people to ask or the right resources to go to. And so we just kind of taught ourselves along the way. And the results, it turned out pretty good.
Moving to this end of the gallery, we have over here a powder room and on this side a wine cellar. And both of our dads are big wine fanatics, so we've kind of grown up with that. And Adam and I both enjoy wine a lot. And so we knew we wanted space to store the wine in the house. And as we looked at options, and this is one of the things we actually went through a few iterations with the architect on how a bar or a wine cellar would look, kind of settled on this area here where, we wanted it to be pronounced, but not the center of attention in the room. And so I think, from our perspective, we got that. And really the very first thing we picked before we even had the cellar was these door handles. They're from a brand in New York called Ochre, and we had seen them when we were in New York, and just that, I think they call them the wooden Viking handles.
Viking, yeah, it looks like a spear.
So these, big, very pronounced handles kind of made it a little bit more than just your kind of typical glass door wine cellar. And so this is something that we spend a lot of time in. We're in here, at least once a week, and have recently got everything organized in here so we know where it's at. And
it's always cold in there too,
yeah.
So which helps in Texas.
You can always step in there in the summer.
And this is our formal powder room right off the main entry, and one of the spaces that we really spent a lot of time thinking about the detail and the design of, is we knew almost everyone who comes to our house is going to visit the bathroom at some point, and we want it to be a special, fun place. This is a vintage baccarat chandelier that is about as old as our house that we found on First Dibs and ordered. We like to find stuff all over the world on First Dibs and bring it to our home. The wallpaper is Gucci, and we knew we wanted to use it. Probably we picked the wallpaper. Well, a lot of this we did in our house. We picked one thing that we knew we wanted to use, and then made the rest of the stuff in the room work with it. So we knew we wanted to use the wallpaper, and we kind of designed the powder room around it.
Kind of brought in the wall coloring and the color of the stone, knowing that we had one thing. And so I think that was probably one of the things we learned early on, that it was really helpful if you made at least one decision. Like, start somewhere so you have a non-negotiable in the rooms, and then we could fill in the gaps around it, because sometimes we look at places where we'd say, we want these 5 things, and you throw them together and it's a mess. And so starting with what's most important or a first choice made everything flow together a lot easier.
This chair sits in our gallery too, and like the table in the front that we showed you earlier with the Talon table, is more like a piece of art than a piece of furniture, and that's why we put it here in the gallery. It's designed by Philippe Starck for Dior, and we bought it when we were in LA one time.
We get a lot of comments that it only has one arm, so it's a good conversation starter for people as they come in too.
But Dior did not discount it despite having only one arm.
So now we're moving into the dining room, which is off the lower gallery. And so this was a space that we knew we really wanted to have, a formal dining room and a space to come together, not only as a family or when we had people over. Like we mentioned, we really enjoy entertaining at the house, and it's a good way to it's a nice way to say we're homebodies. We like to be at home. We like to have people over, and so when we can entertain nicely, that works out and makes people want to come over as well. So this is a perfect space for that. We've had a few formal dinners in here already, and look forward to keep using the space many more times to come.
There's a lot of things going on in here to kind of create mood and texture, and to make it just a cool, interesting space. Starting with the ceiling. The ceiling is what people talk about the most. This is a hand-painted paper by a company in Kansas City called Porter Telio. It was hand-painted by them right there. We had it custom dyed to match the paint Faro and Ball downpipe, which is also on the walls in high gloss lacquer. And then they dyed fabric the same to match the same Faro and Ball downpipe for the chair seats, and then hand-painted them to match the ceiling. So the seats on these chairs match what's above them on the ceiling, and we think that is a really cool detail. These were the dining room chairs from our last house, so we recovered them with the paper, the same pattern as the ceiling, but other than that, they're the same as they were before.
One thing we did in this room, we have speakers throughout. We did a Sonos system in the house. And because of the wallpaper, we didn't really want to have this big white grill on the ceiling. And so we actually did these speakers that you can't see. They're called Invisible Line by Sonance. And they're actually under the drywall that's under the wallpaper. And when you turn on the music, you would never know that they weren't a speaker right there on the outside, but they're completely invisible. So as long as none of them breaks, it's going to be fantastic. But we'll see when one of those goes out, we have to replace it, how we figure that one out.
The table was custom made and designed by us. It was made by Keith Fritz in Indiana. It's made American handcrafted woodwork, which is something we really love. We used furniture made in America as much as possible in our house. Most of the large furniture pieces were made in America, and I can tell you who made them, and so we're really proud of that. This piece here is a Ralph Lauren bar cart that we display our collection of Christoffel silver on. And
that was a last minute ad. We kind of were walking around the store and saw that, and we had this spot here that we knew eventually we needed something, but it wasn't a move-in necessity, and saw that and thought it'd be perfect.
Absolutely.
The other thing we added kind of late was these head chairs that we knew we wanted to seat 10, and so when we moved in, we had 8 chairs, and we were in Paris end of the year at the flea market, and you're really not looking for anything in particular, and one of the stalls, these weren't even for sale. These were the chairs that the guys who were running the shop were eating their lunch sandwich in out front.
And smoking.
Yeah, and we just saw them, we thought those look like they'd go great. Like it just kind of had that same vibe. They're old, they're worn. So we got these, had them recovered in a gray to kind of go with the theme, and help bring that finishing touch to the table in here, which worked out perfect.
There's another little piece of extra detail, this tape on the side here of the cushions. That's another example of just a place wherever we try to find just like one more extra detail to add to something, we usually do that, and they did a great job putting that on there. So again, the color is all the same. So the ceiling, all the trim, and the walls are all that Faro and Ball down pipe. Even though there's a lot going on in here, that sense of one unifying color palette, I think, creates some cohesion.
And given all of that kind of dark gray, dark brown, that really leads us to the rug that we chose, because we knew we wanted to bring a little bit of color in this. We didn't want it to be so monochromatic. And so we spent a lot of time, probably the most time in rugs in the house was for the dining room, looking at different options and deciding what could go so that you could bring in that pop of color without it kind of looking obnoxious or anything. And so ended up settling on this that you want to talk about.
This rug was handmade in India. It's the thing we waited the longest on. It probably took about a year.
Yeah.
And it's from a company called Sheer Rugs, I believe is what they're called, and they're based in Chicago. We found this chandelier. I saw it in a window in New York when we were walking by, and I made note of the company. It's made there. They're called O Lampia, And one of the things I really like about it, again, it was difficult to choose a chandelier because we have this abstract thing going on the ceiling, this shiny, high glossy walls. We have crystal sconces here from Baccarat. And it was really difficult to find lighting that made sense with all of that. And by having this kind of funky abstract chandelier that is kind of intentionally abstract is what in some way unifies everything else. It really pulls together. It goes great with the design of the room. It's a conversation piece and we love it.
And you know, your obvious choice for a formal dining room is probably often a glass or a crystal chandelier, and we looked at that, but really like the idea of something different, a little bit unexpected. You know, it's probably not, if you saw the room without a chandelier, what you would expect to be in the room, and so it gave it a little bit extra color and just kind of individual personality that we appreciated.
This is an old Elo mirror that we had, and flanked by two Baccarat sconces. So those are mixing new and old things, and an old Art Deco kind of 1920s, 1930s buffet that we also had that is a similar period to when the house was originally built. So we're happy to have it and use it again. And we used things that we had before and as much as possible throughout our home and mix things in. And I really find that if you buy stuff that you like and you're designing a home that is your taste, then you're going to find a place to use those things no matter where you live and what the space is.
So moving into the kitchen family room area of the house, this is really everything that was brand new. This was kind of the ground up construction. The original house kind of ended at this wall. And so we knew that what you didn't have 100 years ago was that open floor plan, entertaining family room, kitchen area. And so that was something that we knew from the start we were going to have to add on. And so that's what this space became.
Moving into the kitchen. This is where inevitably everybody ends up every time. Everybody says that about their house, and it's true here. And because of that, I love this huge island that we did here. We have seats for 6 people to sit around it at these bar stools, and this huge, massive slab of soapstone on top. It just, it really is the place where we spend most of our time, right here at the kitchen island. We wanted the island to feel different than the rest of the kitchen cabinetry. And so the details here, it being made out of walnut and then stained a dark walnut color, make it feel a little bit more like a piece of furniture or a floating island than appliances, but it still has modern appliances built into it. Like I love this here is our ice machines, and we have your choice of cubed or crushed, so nobody has to argue about their favorite ice. What else in the kitchen, Dan?
So a big wall of appliances over here with the fridge and freezer, and one of the things we knew is we wanted to have, we really liked that kind of metal exposed fridge and freezer, and you can never have enough room for food and everything, so did the full size next to each other, and then some more fridge drawers down here and a coffee machine. Adam has coffee all the time. I think I've used it about twice since we moved in. I like to make a cup of coffee and forget it until it's cold. But it's a nice feature that it's there and ready to go.
Another thing I tell people all the time, and it's true of the kitchen too, I said it earlier, if you pick one thing that you love, you can kind of build the rest of the design around it. And this stone is that for this room, the stone that is on the backsplash by the range and that is on all these outer cabinets. It's from Saks slabs. It has this beautiful purples and greens, even a little bit of gray, creams and whites. And basically we picked that and then we pulled the color palette for the kitchen from that. We did our kitchens this green color, the cabinets on the outer, and it really all ties together nicely. And everybody loves this stone. We love it. This is a drip ledge. I've never seen this before, but you can learn stuff on TV too. You can learn stuff on Netflix. That's where I found this out on Dream Home Makeover. Shay McGee had this in her house. I thought it was a great idea. I don't know if it does anything to stop dripping, but it sure looks nice. And it's another excuse to use this beautiful stone.
The sink area was one of those spots that posed some challenges in the regulations and things you needed for getting your contracts and everything. And so what we learned was, because we had no back wall there was nowhere to put an outlet, and these two side walls were too far from the sink. And so we ended up having to do these pop-up outlets that are in the counter that turned out to be pretty cool. You know, you have the outlet ready for appliances or things like that, and they're within, I believe it's 36 inches is what you need for a sink. And so it was one of those things that took a lot of collaboration with the stone fabricator and the builder and the architect to figure out where they go and how it comes in, especially since that was not quite the 11th hour, but maybe the 7th hour part of the process. And so just one of many things where we had to figure out how you achieve the requirements that you have and not just the pretty things that you want in the house.
Why don't we talk about these over here by the stove, these cutting boards. We built in this area to have these custom wood chopping blocks. And then once you have them built, these slots, you have to have a cutting board that is made perfectly sized. So these were handmade in Michigan for us, and they're these beautiful walnut boards that we can use, and then they slide right back in here perfectly, and so that is both decorative and functional. The hardware mix in here is something a lot of people like. It's all unlacquered brass hardware, but depending on what cabinet it's on, we have latches, we have knobs, we have cup pulls, more traditional handle pulls. So that mix of hardware all being in the same brass, it's all Armac Martin from the UK, and it looks interesting and old and new at the same time. I really like the brass.
I'll never forget the day we decided to start looking at the hardware. It was a Friday. We lived in an apartment where we were building the house, and I said, let's open a bottle of wine, pick all the hardware for the house, and then watch this movie that I wanted to watch. This is 5 o'clock maybe. 3 o'clock that morning, Adam said, we have to go to bed. Like, I've had enough of hardware, and we were not halfway through it. And so it took a few of those kind of days, and we realized that, to his point, you could have just said, let's do all knobs and have them all the same, but we wanted a little bit more detail and, differentiation and stuff. And so figuring out where is the handle going to end and where is the pull going to start when every cabinet is not a mirror image of itself, posed to be a little bit more legwork than we expected, but
we learned that we're both kind of obsessed with and love hardware, and so now we do that all the time. If we buy a piece of furniture, the first thing we do is start talking about changing the hardware, and it's a fun detail for sure. How do you make a house a home? For us, I think it mostly filling it with stuff that you like and stuff that's representative of you, and picking colors and making choices and doing things that you like and that you stand behind, no matter if those are what are on trend or what other people like or not. One thing for sure, a bunch of people told us that you could not use two different countertops in a kitchen and two different stains and cabinet colors. You can do one or the other, so you could mix countertop materials, have one on the island and one on the other, or you could do the same and have outer cabinets one color, but then the island needs to be the same if you're going to mix the stones. We decided not to pay attention to that rule. Our island is a different color than our outer cabinets, and then the stone is different too. I think overall the work looks great for us, and we wanted it to be that way, and so it's ours. And I think that that's really what most people should do when they're approaching their home, is to do the thing that they like. They're the ones living there, they're the ones paying for it, they're the ones who have to be there every day, and it's a reflection of you, your family, and your personality. And if you do stuff with it that you love, then the end result will be reflective of that.
I think we made sure too that there was really no spaces that were here because they have to be, and instead they were spaces that were here because we wanted them to be. And I know I can think of plenty of houses you go in where there's a room that you're never allowed in, or there's a space where just even if you're allowed in there, you don't use it, and that often could be the formal living room. And instead of having a formal living room, we did a library office where we spend a lot of our time. And I work from home a couple days a week, and so I work there, and we'll sit on the couch in there and entertain with people. And so I think that idea of using spaces in a way that know you'll be able to use them and get value out of was key. And we really have very few inches of the house that we wouldn't use on almost a daily basis.
Off the kitchen, we have our pantry. The same stone that is in the kitchen is here on the countertop in the butler's pantry. And we integrated the sink out of the same stone just to continue the same material. The same material goes straight down into the sink and then straight up the wall for a slab backsplash. I think that makes a really clean, pretty effect and is the best way to highlight the natural stone when you just lay it out and leave it alone.
You know, this was a room that we really wanted to have be a little bit of a transition from the functional, more usable kitchen to the more formal dining room. And so you have a room here that has, you know, this pretty stone and also has bags of chips and M&Ms hidden behind the
Yeah, that's where we actually
here.
have to keep our food. I'll show you where we keep our food. People say, they come in here and say, well, where do you actually keep your stuff in the pantry? It's all behind these cabinets. So if you look in here, we have these baskets that are labeled with different ingredients and things in jars. These jars have walnut tops, so we found jars that have walnut tops, again, to repeat from the island woodwork and the cutting boards and just walnut accents, kind of the wood accents throughout the home. So we try to carry that through in every detail.
Yeah. And then over here we keep more of the everyday servingware. This was a recent remodel from the organization. We had things kind of all over the place in the kitchen that we figured out a better place to bring things in one spot so that when you're looking for a bowl and a plate, they were in one cabinet instead of 3 drawers, depending on what the occasion was.
We lined our cabinets everywhere with cork, which is a really nice, just creates a soft surface. And I think that feels more kind of natural and organic than using plastic shelf liners or something like that. So it's also pretty easy to roll out and use. The wallpaper is Gucci, and there's just this one little wall and spot of it here. The house was already done. We weren't going to do wallpaper in here, and we saw this wallpaper, and it worked with the green from the kitchen. And then, so we decided to add it.
That's a sentence I've heard Adam say a lot. The house is done, we're not going to do wallpaper, and then a week later there's a wallpaper guy
You
here
can do
adding
wallpaper,
so
I mean, there's never enough.
you'll see a few rooms that we might comment that they've been added after the fact, but it brings a nice little touch and kind of wraps up the room, I think, compared to what it was with just the white walls originally.
The paint color of the cabinets in here is Benjamin Moore creamy white, and they're all the same color, all the exactly the same. And then we had a local company, Fashion Glass and Mirrors, fabricated these antique mirror panels to fit into these big doors.
And the light fixture in here was another vintage piece that we found. I believe it's from Austria. It probably around the same age of the house as well, but you know, a few spots we found where we liked a new fixture to kind of tie things together, but you know, this, just like the powder room, led itself to something that was old, vintage, and had kind of that small scale to it. So now we're here in the mudroom, which is really where we enter the house from the garage in the back and come into the kitchen. And this is a space where, you know, we did these antique tiles that were from France that we had found to really give it kind of that homey, older, you know, it's a floor where we don't have to worry about it as much. You don't have to worry about scuffing up the wood or cracking the brand new marble. You know, this floor has seen more than we'll ever throw at it. So it's nice to have this space that's really probably the most utilitarian of the house, where we're coming in muddy with, you know, the kids have football cleats and things like that, and the dogs are slobbering all around. And so it's a space that really serves its purpose for that.
It's a great way to use an old material that's already aged for you, and so you can just keep adding your age to it, not have to worry about it looking perfect all the time. And we sourced this reclaimed tile from Patet Architecturals here in Dallas. The cabinets in here are painted the same green as the kitchen, and our hardware maker, Armac Martin, also makes these grills that we inserted in there just to add a little bit more detail in the mudroom cabinetry. And it's because the reason to have a grill is because this is a stackable washer and dryer unit in here, and so that needed to vent a little bit, and we just repeated it on that side. So we hid a washer and dryer unit in these cabinets, and just tucks away So it's there when you need it and then gone when you don't.
And then on the other side, it's the cleaning supplies, the stuff you don't usually want to see behind a door. So it was nice that it could look like that, but not be visible as you walked into the room behind a glass wall or something like that.
We have a beadboard backsplash here that's painted the same color as the cabinets, just for a little bit of extra texture. And then the backing of the bench area is white oak to bring in a natural material here to the mudroom too. So we have a natural wood stain. It's the same as the door, which is also a white oak Dutch door that comes into here. We'll leave the kitchen, mudroom, pantry area and show you our family room and bar.
So moving from the kitchen into the family room, this kind of transition space here, we decided really towards the end to put in a family dining table. Originally we were going to have a little bit more lounge seating, but the idea of eating at the formal dining room every day with kids, that was one of those things that wasn't quite as practical as we thought in the beginning. So this has been nice to have this extra space. It makes for a little bit more casual dining. And so as we move into the family room area itself, this was an area where we spend a lot of time here with just the family or with friends, kind of hanging out, watching TV, sitting by the fireplace.
The first thing we bought here was this vintage marble coffee table. And again, that's kind of the colors of that served as the inspiration for the rest of the materials in the room. So we kind of pulled the same reds, that is rich browns, golds, ochres. You pulled those colors out of the marble and then used it throughout the room.
And the table, it's a marble called Breccia Vendôme.
Yep.
That hundreds of years ago, the only people that could buy that marble were the French royal family. And so you'll see a lot of it at the Palace of Versailles and places like that. Today, anybody who walks into a store can get it, but it was cool that it had that history. In this piece, we don't know exactly how old it was, but we bought this old as well. And even to the point of when we brought it in the day we moved in, it was so old that some of the joints broke and fell apart that day on the truck. And so it worked out. We were actually glad that it broke.
It wouldn't be moving day without a disaster.
We were glad that it broke as it came into the house instead of a week later when we didn't have the moving company there anymore. But
they glued it back together.
Another thing the stone fabricator works some miracles on, and you'd never even know that it was 100 years old at this point.
And in Dallas also, we were lucky to find this old Turkish Uşak rug. It is the oldest thing in the house. It's from the late 1800s. And they call it hotel lobby sized, or because it's large enough to fill the whole room. We were lucky enough to find something in the color palette that we wanted that was also just really a perfect space. And it's amazing that this rug, 150 years old probably, is here in our house, and it looks like it was meant for this space.
Yeah, I can only imagine the number of different homes and such it's been in the past, and it's always funny. I spilled something one day once, and I got down to clean it up, and I realized there's like 4 other spots of who knows what's been there in the last couple hundred years. So it's a nice vintage piece that really kind of shows you, old can be lived in and still look nice and give a new look.
These chairs are from Rose Tarlow in California. They have this beautiful green leather on them that I really like. And again, because this is all one open space with the kitchen, it pulls some of the green that is in the kitchen back over to this area. We have a big, giant, comfortable sofa that we can sit on, and a couple lounge chairs over there. These are also Rose Tarlow, both chairs, and are from the same maker on both sides.
And as we looked at furniture in here, we really wanted to bring in some different layers and some detail to things. An obvious choice in a family room could often be just a big single sectional around a coffee table or something, but we like the idea of kind of different groups of seating and such, and making use of the space that we have. We have some room in the family room, but it's not a massive family room space, and so being able to bring a couple different pairs of things together made it feel a little bit more cohesive.
And then again, trying to choose materials and have things made that all work together. This little walnut wood detail on the light fixture matches the walnut that's in the kitchen. And then the metal has this really cool brass ombre effect on the metal here. And when we had a fireplace screen made, we had the guy who made the fireplace screen just replicate that here. So we try to find like a little detail or something that we like and then repeat it different places. I really like things that are not made out of a material that you wouldn't expect. The lamps are a great example of those because those are suede. I'd never seen a suede lamp before. So I thought that was really cool, and they dim just like this. So the mix of that soft suede material and the hard brass is a cool composition, and those are apparatus from New York.
Again, another spot where we had some existing, some new. You know, that's a piece that we've had for a while. This was a piece, we actually did a home tour in Dallas last year, and one of the houses had a piece of art above the fireplace that when we left, both of us said to each other, we really liked the style of that one above the fireplace. And so we kind of figured out, tracked down who the artist was, and it worked out that the woman's name is Kristen Moore, and she's local here in Dallas. So we got to go to her workshop, see some of her stuff, and meet her, and found a piece that she had that we liked.
Yeah, this is a painting, not a photograph.
Yeah.
A lot of people think it's a photograph. It's a painting because it looks so realistic. And one of our favorite places to visit is Los Angeles, and this reminds us. This was a painting that she did of a street in Beverly Hills, and so it reminds us of being out there. And then the other large painting in this house is in this room is there. On the opposite wall, that's a British artist called Jake Wood Evans. Just his work, I've loved his work forever, his use of color and the movement in it. He kind of pulls from these historical themes. This is inspired by an old Turner ship painting, and I have been a fan of his for a long time and followed him forever. And when we moved into the house, the gallery in London that works with him, Unit Gallery, was able to find this piece for us that is perfect for the wall, and we're so happy to have it. Again, the colors of the painting and the coffee table, it just all works together like it was meant to be.
So off the family room now, we'll step out into the patio in the backyard.
This is, again, really an extension of our family room. We wanted to create this covered space where the family room, when the weather's nice, we leave these doors open, people can spill straight out in here, and this just becomes, again, another entertaining space. We have our grill and cooking area all over there, and then
All of these openings too have roller shades in them that come down, so.
yeah, I was going to show you.
Okay.
So in Texas, that's how we keep the mosquitoes away and can still hang out outside in the summertime. We try to really make this like a 4-season space. These are recessed heaters in the ceiling, the fans, the screens. So kind of depending on the time of year and the weather and what we have going on, you can use this space a lot of different ways. And again, the goal was just to be able to come straight from our family room, open these big double sliding doors, and just have this all really function as one space here in the home.
So in the backyard off the main patio, we have our pool and another smaller patio. And we actually use this one even way more than the big patio. It's much more cozy if it's just 2 or 4 of you.
One of the things that's interesting or good to look at while we're back here is that all of this is brand new constructions. This is not 100 years old. All of this is less than 1 year old. But we tried to build this with materials that would match the front of the house and look like it had been here. Even this brick, we found out the brick that the original front of the house is made out of, that quarry is still operating and they're still pulling brick out of it. So we sourced the exact same brick that the house was built out of all those years ago, and it's made here. So we really wanted the architectural style of what we added in the back to match really well with what was existing in the front of the house.
Yeah. In the back of the house, in the garage, there's a gym and a pool bath, as well as an extra bedroom and some storage space upstairs. So it was a nice feature that the house had, the carriage house, and we're able to get use out of that area to expand the things that didn't quite fit in the main house to still have those features.
We are back inside and we're headed into the bar. Dan, what do you want to tell us about the bar?
Sure. So, this was a space we knew we really wanted to have a wet bar in the house and a space that was a little bit more exciting than just here's the bar and some storage. And so we spent a lot of time kind of detailing this. And, one thing in particular, you'll see this countertop has a really cool edge detail. And we had, this was another thing that we had just seen online and thought that looks really cool. Let's do that for a countertop. And we told our stone fabricator and they said, sure, we'll figure it out. And we learned a few months later that they had never done it before either. So they had to truly figure it out, get the tools that they needed, figure out how to do that. But it gave a really nice detail to this. And that the counters you'll see behind Adam here, really extends into the family room, that we kind of made this, the goal was to be seamless, where you don't really feel like you're walking into a separate room when you come into the wet bar from the family room, or the same idea as you exit on the other side into the library. And so, it's a bit of a transition space between the two, where we have room behind these reeded glass to store all of our glassware, as well as plenty of cabinets to keep some of the tools and stuff that you need in a bar. And then we also put in another Sub-Zero wine fridge here for really the whites, the rosés, the champagnes, so that we had space in here. Kind of think of that. A lot of that's the more casual. We're sitting outside having a glass of white wine by the pool and such.
The color of these cabinets is like an ugly brown, and it's fun to use a color that you wouldn't expect to come out the way it does. A lot of people would think a brown is just kind of like an ugly, muddy color. This one is a really dark, saturated one. But then by doing it in this high gloss lacquer finish, it adds a little glamour to that ugly, muddy brown, and I think the effect is really nice. And then we found this wallpaper again. There's very little space to do wallpaper in here, but if you give me a couple walls, a corner, then we'll take it. And we found this Fornacetti wallpaper. It's called Cocktails, and if you're picking wallpaper for a bar, one called Cocktails seems like it's a good idea to me.
Couldn't be more perfect.
Yeah. And then that moves straight into our library, which serves as, for us, like a formal living room, work from home space, a lounge. It's a little bit of everything, and it's right off the family room and the wet bar, and it's one of the spaces in the house that is exactly the same as it was 100 years ago. This functioned as the formal living room when the house was built. It had the bay window in front, and so the shape and size of this room is exactly as it has been. We built a whole wall of bookshelves here, again, to both store books, and if you're going to call it the library, you need to have some library effect. The paint color here is most people's favorite navy is Benjamin Moore Hell Navy, and that's what the color is in here as well. These shades on the sconces here, as well as the lamp on the desk, are also painted to match the Hell Navy paint, all the same.
And because this room is, a multitasking room, it had to serve a few purposes. And so, there are days where one of us is home doing real work and, maybe on a video call or on a conference call or something. And so we still wanted the room to be open and flow to the rest of the house. But given that, we put in these big double doors in the back that, you could close when you need to and kind of close off the space, keep it a little quieter. And then also into the wet bar, we put in sliding doors there so that in the majority of the times you're not going to need those. But when you want to keep out a little bit of the noise from the rest of the house, you can do that. And it was, I think these doors in particular, we really liked the walnut with these big knobs. Even if they're never closed, it's kind of a cool statement piece to it.
And these chairs too, again, speaking to the multifunction nature of the space, if you're sitting here having some drinks by the fire with friends, they can turn this way, but they have little casters on the front, and so you can also just turn them, and if someone's sitting and working at the desk, you can use it that way too. So when you're remodeling or using an old house and using some of the existing space that's there, then and you're trying to have one space serve multiple functions, it's helpful to think about the furniture and the ways the furniture too can have multiple uses as well. Tell the story about this scarf, Dan.
Sure. So this is a vintage Hermes scarf by the artist is named Kermit Oliver, and he is actually one of the first not only American but African American artists to do scarves for Hermes, and lived here in Texas. And so this was one Adam had really liked this, and I finally found it in an auction that was going live when we were going to see Santa Claus with the boys. So we're all in line to see Santa, and I'm like playing on my phone over here at this auction before Christmas, and I could see all three of them looking at me like, what is he doing? Why is he not paying attention to us? But it worked out kind of a nice vintage piece for the library to pull things together there. And the color palette was perfect as well.
We really wanted, Dan for sure wanted a Chesterfield sofa. If one of us have more opinions on furniture, it's definitely me. But so when Dan gives a furniture opinion, then we try to heed it, and he really wanted a Chesterfield sofa. This one from Ralph Lauren is kind of like what I would consider the prototype, perfect, classic Chesterfield sofa in this buttery brown leather, and it'll just keep getting better with age too. This table here is an interesting way to combine different things and use different things. So it sits on these metal snake legs that we had from another table, but we needed one just for this size for this spot. And so we had a leftover piece of the kitchen countertop material cut just for this size and attached to this pair of table legs that we already had. So that was a way of using something existing, even a leftover piece of building material. You wouldn't necessarily think that scrap from your kitchen counter is going to end up in your library, but there we have it.
And we polished the piece in here instead of being honed like in the kitchen it really gives it a whole different material look, and more went with
more like the marble
vibe
on
of this
the
room.
fireplace.
So that wraps up the first floor. Why don't we go upstairs and we'll take a look in the master bedroom.
Let's go.
Here we are now in the master bedroom. So this is a room where we kind of took a little bit of a different direction than some of the other spaces, in less saturated colors, and really kind of stuck with that very neutral tone. And so the walls are a Roman clay that we really like the texture that brought, and it was pretty cool to see as they put that on. You know, it's really like slapping it on with a spatula versus the paint that's a little more particular in how it goes, and gives it a little more rugged look to kind of the texture there.
Yeah, it's Portolo paints from Los Angeles. The color's Patagonia. So it's all one neutral color. We found fabrics for the drapery in here that basically match the wall color, and we wanted to just keep it really nice and neutral and light. The plaster lamps, I think these are so cool. They're one of my favorite accessories in the house. These are from Blackman Cruise as well, the company that makes that Talon coffee table. So they do really unique and interesting pieces, and these plaster lamps with vertebrae are really cool. I like them on these stone nightstands, and we have reading lights by the bed, which make it nice to be able to turn it on and off just before you go to bed, or tilt or read to not keep the other person awake. And the artwork here, this little plaster piece again, is something that we found this in Paris at the flea market on that same trip as where we found the dining room chairs we were talking about downstairs. This little plaster piece we found and had shipped back, and I think it works great again with just the neutral, kind of calm, textural nature of this room. We have higher ceilings here than we do anywhere else in the rest of the house because it was new construction on the second floor. We could go a little taller here, and I think that might have been what inspired us to keep the paint and the furnishings really calm in here. Is just to have this airy, bright space, which feels very much like a master retreat from the rest of the house.
Yeah, you get a nice view of the backyard and the pool area from the Juliet balcony here, which is a nice little feature and a space to have. Stepping in here to the master bathroom, one of the things we kind of started, I always knew I liked the idea of opposing sinks. And so that was one of the first things that we were working around here as we set that up. And so we really started to find pieces here that we liked. And the mirrors is a good example, kind of that Greek key. They're new, but have an old look to them. And we like that scale and kind of texture of it that it brought to the room.
Yeah, they're Murano glass mirrors, and the fixture is new Italian. The ceiling fixture is new Italian Murano glass too. The floor is really the star of the show in here. It's what we picked first again, and kind of made everything else work with it. You can see picking up the black again in here that kind of goes throughout the house. And we have a large steel window here, but because we have neighbors, we have these sheer drapes on them that we made sure you can't see through, but it is nice to be able to let the light in at different times and then close them for privacy when you need to. We have this big bathtub with a floor-mounted tub filler. I'm a bath guy. I like to take a bath. I used to say I'd take a Sunday night bath, and then as older as I get, that could be like 2, 3, 4 nights a week. So that's kind of what's fun for me to do on a Friday night these days, as much as anything. And so it gets a lot of use. There's an interesting mix of hardware in here too, like in the rest of our house, that with these handles that are on the vanity are the same as the handles that were used for the shower door and the linen cabinet. And then we have a heated brass towel bar here. You turn on the switch and you can have your towel a little bit warm in the morning. And then what we might have said, I don't know, both of us might argue about what our favorite space in the house is. It could be the closet, which we'll see next, but it could also be this big kind of dream shower that's also a steam room, and it's all clad in this beautiful marble on the wainscoting on the bottom, and the bench is completely made out of that as well. And we've got body sprays and shower heads, a hand shower, and the rain heads. So kind of a shower, definitely a shower dream in my opinion.
We tried to bring like the marble, the white marble on the wall together with the floor here, because particularly with this pattern, it's a busier stone pattern than some of the others, and so we decided we didn't want it to go wall to wall, and so having it be a little bit more of this kind of segmented part of the room, you could put that white border on that then tied into the shower to make it feel like part of the same space then as well.
Then we have these double doors here are iron steel doors that we hide all of our medicine cabinet and linens and towels behind, and have a little skincare fridge. So that's where we store our stuff in the bathroom that's not in the vanities. And yeah, that's about it. That's the bathroom. And this is our closet, and probably, if we're being honest, both of our favorite room in the house. Took
Probably
a lot
spend
of
the
effort,
most time hanging out here.
but we view it as really just a space for us to collect the things that we like and to hang out, just the two of us. And so we'd love to show you around. This walnut cabinetry was all built to hold our stuff. Luckily, we, other than pants, Dan and I can share most items. So the clothes
Pants and shoes.
The clothes are all mixed. We don't have different sections for different of us, which makes it pretty easy to stay organized and display things. We have, again, clever organizing solutions here with these. This is where we keep our belts, with these drawer liners that are the same as the ones we saw in the kitchen with the felt bottom. So we have things like that there.
And you'll see this hardware throughout. This is the same series that Ochre handles as the wine room, but a smaller version, of course, in horn.
Yeah, these are horn, and really, I love these. We store watches here. We have some watches, and all of our shoes are lined up here in this area. And when we use this little stool, you can have a seat, change shoes. I could put on a different pair now. Then at the back of the closet is really the best part, which is this little private lounge that we have just for us in the back. Take a seat on the bench.
I think this is probably our favorite little part of the closet and was really the final architectural detail that we added. So this is right above the patio down below, and neither one of those existed in what was probably our version final of our plans, but we were able to convince the architect that it was a good idea to extend it out a little more and got this space, which is really a nice kind of lounge area of the closet versus just the more utilitarian closed storage area.
Or at the front. I don't think any of this is that utilitarian. So we will show you some more things that actually make it a space we can use at different times of day. I like to come in here in the morning, and this is where I start my day with a cup of coffee, just like before. There's cups here, and then we have a refrigerator here. The top one is vitamins and water, and the bottom one is for the evening, this is our little closet champagne fridge, which we think is a lot of fun. So
makes it nice for a little champagne bar in the closet.
Yep. There have been a few times when we've had dinner parties or people over, and somehow after dinner at the end of the night, why is everyone in our closet?
Yeah, drinking the champagne from the champagne fridge.
Yeah. This is the program from when we got married and the bow ties we wore. So we had those framed like a shadow box, and that's something that we display in here. Every drawer is pretty organized. Just the sunglasses with those same drawer liners that we saw before. And so we tried to think of the best way to use all of the space. Even below the bench are these drawers where we can have more storage and continue to add things and change the way we display and store things.
We did this wallpaper that really you can only see in a couple spots. You can see it mostly in this back room here, but kind of inspired by a pinstripe men's suit, and it's even got a nice wool kind of suiting texture to it.
Yeah, so it feels soft and perfect for a closet. It's Phil Jeffries. And the paint here is the same color as the dining room, that gray, but here it's completely dead flat, completely matte, and in the dining room it's a really high gloss. So you can see how color can look different, a lot different depending on the sheen. Home for me is a place for family and friends to come together and have a great time.
A home for me is a place you can be at ease and relax and enjoy spending time with the ones you love.
Homeworthy, we are so happy you came by Highland Park, Texas today to see the Beverly Casa. Thank you for coming to our home. Goodbye.
Thanks for joining us. We enjoyed having you.
Bye.
We'll see you later.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.